All right, the second rebalancing idea, I think, is rebalancing the defensive toolkit, right? I've talked about, changing iframes, lowering the cooldown of Synchro. It's just so long and unnecessarily overpowered. You know, lowering iframes in general, maybe from 10 seconds down to 5 seconds, and making them like from 2 minutes to 1 minute cooldowns. Maybe implementing some sort of iframe with teleports, maybe even Hero's Will or Will of Urda becoming an iframe, or some sort of dispel. I think there are a lot of options here, right? But I wanted to make a point that this is about the defensive toolkit and not just iframes, right? I think there's a lot of things that they can do. If they don't touch iframes, that's totally fine. But I'm curious if they ever allow for more benefits to having evade percent, block percent, ignore defense, the hyperstat that is out there, that is just sitting there waiting to be used. These are all skills that seem like they have viability, right? Evade is an option for Necro and Absolapse. It gives a lot. There is benefit to it. There was benefit to it on the Necro level as an option, over crit rate percent, over crit attack. But it feels like it's just gone as an afterthought. And maybe that's the way they intended, but it feels like it's more beneficial for lower game bosses, even things like Mulong and Covert. It will help. But as far as end game bosses, everything is fixed damage. Everything is, a full map attack, a one shot, one hit KO type of skill, where evade and block, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't have any value, right? It doesn't go into the calculations at all. And that's disappointing. And that's why I thought, it'd be interesting to incorporate, Will of Urda, Hero's Will into that somehow, right? Because there are skills that are not necessarily iframes that still have value. Think of something like Blitz Shield is great for warriors. There's Ethereal Form, which isn't technically an iframe because you will die through DR. Things like Wind Archer's Shield as well is an amazing one. Even things like the Shade or Divine Shield's Paladin, or Paladin's Divine Shield, or Shade's, I think that it's called like their Shielding Ward, their Spirit Ward, whatever it is, where it actually guards, I think, 3 attacks. These are all kind of loopholes within the defensive toolkit system that isn't necessarily evade, isn't necessarily block, but it still does something. It's effective, right? And I think that just having a better understanding of skills and maybe creating some sort of consistency where there is some sort of, excitement over having a defensive stats, right? And it's not just so HP based, right? It's whether or not you can tank things or not. Everything's fixed damage, so you need to have so much HP in order to survive or you're screwed, right? There's no way else to counter that. So I wonder, right? Would they do that? Would they change some skills, rebalance some bosses where fixed damage now becomes normal boss damage, where, or HP scaling damage, right? Where things like Benediction or Shell or party buffs can help influence how much damage your team is taking. I know in Damien, everything is pretty much fixed, while as Lucid has some mechanics in there where you can use Shell. I get it, right? You can use Shell, you can use defensive buffs to help reduce damage, but I'm just curious, right? Maybe that's something that they incorporate. I just feel like the levels of iframes is just overpowered, right? The levels of, and just the lack of defensive skills is just not there. I mean, it's just so obvious, right? It feels like those stats are what they're even there for, right? Like if you want to play a thief, you want to have percent evade. You want to have that ability to evade stuff, right? As a thief player. Warriors, more HP, blocking, guarding, right? Pirates, mages, archers, having some sort of balance in between where that they can, have a little bit of everything, right? It just feels like there's no, there's nothing there. There's nothing to even grasp onto. So I'm curious if that's something, I hope that's something that they look at and possibly rebalance to, improve survivability, right? Can't do any damage if you're dead.